Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the podcast, The Joyful Frugalista, and now here's your host, Serina Bird.
Hello, I'm super excited to share the good news that I have written another book, How to Pay Your Mortgage Off in 10 Years, responds to the cost of living crisis that many people find themselves in. Whether you are paying off a mortgage, you've paid off a mortgage, you aspire to buy a house and have a mortgage, or you know someone who does have a mortgage, this book will have lots of frugal tips and tricks as well as some finance hacks for you. Thank you so much.
Hello, Frugalistas, and welcome. I am recording this podcast on board P&O's Pacific Adventure, on yet another adventure, and I'm joined here by my husband, Neil. Hi, Neil.
Hello, Frugalistas. It's your Mr. Frugalista, maybe.
He's the one who edits all my podcasts, so he probably has a bigger stake, I think, in this podcast than me in a way, because I just get to talk, but he actually does the hard work. But speaking of podcasts, the topic today is actually about holidays. So some of you may have followed my other Instagram account, which is the Joyful Frugalista Adventures, where I talk about some of the fun things I do. And you might wonder, like, what's this frugalista doing, like spending money, like, you know, going on holidays? Well, because we live a good frugal lifestyle and we invest wisely, we're now at a stage where we're able to do a lot of travel. But even so, we're very good at looking at bargains. Isn't that right, Neil?
Yes, you always got to hunt the bargain. It's a bit of a game. You love a game.
We love a game. So we thought that in this particular podcast, for those of you who like cruising or who are thinking of doing cruising, that, you know, we might actually start by talking about cruising as a holiday. Now, you might wonder, well, is it good value? Is it worth doing? Well, I guess this is a central question firstly. And I'd say it's definitely not as cheap as a staycation where you pitch a tent in your backyard, perhaps.
No. But there are multiple levels. You can go from the cheaper 3-star cruise lines right up to the 5-star. You can pay a fortune. It just depends what you want. You can go to the Royal Suite or anything. Yeah, the sky's the limit.
So this particular cruise we booked about 6-7 months ago. We booked it when it was on special, and it's over the Easter holidays. Now, for us to have a comparable holiday over the Easter would have cost us much, much, much more just on accommodation and transport alone. And our cruise fare includes 3 nights accommodation and 4 days, or 3 and a bit really. Yeah. Food and entertainment as well. So there are quite a lot of inclusions. So I guess on that question about is it a cheap holiday, because this comes up a lot. No, it's not cheap. I don't think there are many holidays other than, say, enjoying nature and camping or staying at home that are cheap. But is it good value? Yes, it most definitely can be good value if you know where to look and you know how to work it.
It can actually be cheaper than just a weekend in Sydney.
It can, actually. It really can. Bit of fine dining and accommodation, you're there. So I guess the first question is, well, how do you get those good fares? How do you get those good deals?
You've got to shop around like anything else. You've got to look at all the different websites, Oz Cruising, Cruise Guru, the websites direct for the shipping companies, and just watch the fares.
Yeah, so I guess, you know, just shop around doesn't... Let's drill down into in terms of what that means. I guess the first thing is thinking about which cruise liner you want, and we generally either cruise with Royal Caribbean or P&O. Australia, but we are considering other cruise lines. But at the moment, we're currently on P&O, so we've perhaps got more recent experience with that, although Neil's just back from a Royal Caribbean adventure, so he can talk a bit more about that. But traditionally, you know, going back maybe 5-6 years ago, a lot of the better deals were through travel companies, but that's shifted a bit.
Yeah, I think travel agents, some people like them, some people don't. It takes away some of your own flexibility where you can ring the cruise line direct, but other people love that someone else manages for them. So, and they perceive that sometimes they get a better deal through a travel agent.
So it can depend. So have a look at all of them. But what I tend to find is that it really helps if you get on the mailing list for a particular cruise company if you follow them on socials, that type of thing. And that way you will know if they're on sale. And of course, know too when the other types of online sales are happening, the Black Fridays, the Click Frenzies,
Yeah.
Boxing Day sales, those usual ones. Like often they will be cruise sales as well to match those. So that's a big one as well.
And the other thing is having a look on board. If you're already on a cruise, go and have a chat to them and see what they can offer you.
Yeah, and we were actually surprised because my mother-in-law's just booked another cruise for later in this year to coincide with my father-in-law's 80th birthday. And we decided to book two. And basically it's exactly the same as the special rate on board, but...
We had $200 on this cruise to spend on board, and we get $100 on the next cruise to spend on board, which actually worked out cheaper than buying the value go fare. Just the go fare, sorry. The value fare is the middle fare.
So basically, we got about $300 worth of extras, including $200 to pay on this trip, just by booking on board.
And if we had a went with the go fare, we would only save $200. So $300 value is pretty good.
Well, basically they have like 3 different tiers of offers, and so we've gone with the middle one, which enables us to choose our room and to get some onboard credit and a few things.
A smaller deposit.
And a smaller deposit. But, definitely if you're on a cruise, they know you like a cruise, so they want to try and on-sell you. And sometimes that can be good value, so don't discount that.
And we were talking to some people in the spa last night who booked late.
That's right.
Yes.
So we booked this particular cruise. I noticed that the dates were over Easter and that we didn't have to take any leave and my kids didn't have to miss any school. And we booked about 6 or 7 months out before the cruise, and we booked on sale and it was really affordable. The people we met paid double for a less desirable...
For an internal cabin than what we paid for a balcony cabin.
Yeah, so sometimes it really, really makes sense to book early. Sometimes if time, is not an option so much, if you're not working full time, don't need to take leave, you don't have kids, you don't have many kind of other commitments, if you're really flexible, sometimes you can get some great last minute deals too.
Yeah, but I think this cruise was over Easter, it was sold out, and that's why the prices went up. So if it's a popular cruise over a particular period of time, like Easter or Christmas or a holiday, vacation.
Yeah, the year before last we did a Christmas cruise, and look, it was lovely. It was a lovely Christmas pantomime, and the kids all got presents on Christmas Day, which was a bath towel each, and there were a few things that were really, really lovely. But basically it was about double the price of the same cruise that went about 2 or 3 weeks later. So is it worth you paying essentially double for Christmas? Well, if it's the only time you can get leave as a family, it might be. But just keep in mind that if you're prepared to go not at the peak times, you can save a lot of money.
Okay. Maybe we should talk about the type of rooms.
Yeah. Luxury. My in-laws are currently in a suite, and obviously that does cost a lot of money.
Probably double what we're paying, yeah.
And when you're on your last cruise, you met a couple from the US.
Phil and Carrie, yeah. They had the Royal Suite, the biggest room on Ovation of the Seas, and it was spectacular. But they got that on a very good deal. She hunted for that deal, and it was so much cheaper than sailing out of Miami to sail out of Sydney.
Well, let's just say that they're in a position in life where they don't have cost of living pressures and just leave it at that. And, that was pretty amazing. But for many people, the cheapest way is to often have an interior cabin. And that's the first time we cruised, that's what we did. My children were still fairly young and they knew not to climb over the balcony. In fact, it's really difficult. They'd really, really have to be trying to do that. And I don't even know how they would have managed it.
No. But it worked for us. An internal cabin was nice, but we lashed out and got a balcony. We did an ocean view before we got a balcony. Ocean view was nice. You could see out the window, get some daylight in, so that was better. But then the balcony was even better again because we can open this door and get some fresh air.
So we're
sort
of at the stage now where we feel that because we're in a good financial situation, it's worth it for us to pay that little bit extra to have a balcony. But we still have 4 of us in one room, but probably in a year or two, as my children become older,
Teenagers, yes.
well, we've already got one teenager. It won't be as easy to do the one room, and we'll need two. But at this stage, we do have one room. But certainly, if money's an option, you can get some great deals for an interior room, and you don't have to spend all day in your room. You can go out and sit by the pool, find a nice seat overlooking the water. So it's quite nice.
But for us as a family, a suite actually doesn't work, even a mini suite, because they have a sofa bed, and the boys would have to share a sofa bed, which they don't want to do.
Yeah, my boys don't want to share
Even
a
with
bed.
Royal Caribbean, to get 4 in a cabin, it's 2 on a sofa bed and another double bed that they can split into king singles. But yeah, it's just makes it awkward. So having bunks is working for us.
Yeah, so just think about your family and how you're going to be situated and so forth. And note that, usually you're not allowed to leave children of a certain age alone in a room, even if you do have interconnecting rooms. How that happens in practice is another thing, but, the cruise ships usually won't allow you to do it.
So you usually book 1 adult in each room.
Yeah. Whether you stay in that room, well, that's up to you. We're not going to go there. So on cruise forums, probably the most popular question.
The biggest subject is drink packages.
Oh my God, the amount of questions about drink packages. And I'm always amazed by the amount of people who assume they need a drinks package. So do you remember how much it was on the Royal Caribbean?
It was $18 a day for a soft drinks package.
Just for a soft drinks package. And what about a full alcohol package?
I think it was $99 a day or so. But it fluctuates because they have specials on. You got to hunt the specials. And one of the hacks with Royal Caribbean is to actually keep it, to buy the drinks package, and then if you see a cheaper one, cancel that and buy it again.
So that is a bit of a hack right there. So keep an eye on those things. But let's just talk about the full alcohol package then. So say you're a couple, you're 2 of you. You don't drink much, but your husband does. He really wants a drinks package. Guess what? The 2 of you have to do that.
On Royal Caribbean, that is true, but on P&O, you can get it individual, but they are reviewing the packages at the moment, so I don't know what's going to happen in the future.
Yes.
But you can't share. If you share, you get banned and you lose your drink package.
So just be very aware of that. There are, be aware of that and read the fine print and understand it. But let's go back to the Royal Caribbean one, because that's probably a good place to start. And I should add too that drinks packages are usually not available on short cruises. I think they know that people will go blotto, so they just don't offer them. But they're usually there for the larger cruises. So say you've got a 10-day cruise and there's 2 of you in a cabin and you're $99 each. So you're paying nearly $200 a day on drinks.
So that's $2,000 over the whole cruise.
$2,000 over the whole cruise just for drinks. Now let's look at what's in that drinks package, because maybe you think it covers everything, but it doesn't really.
It's up to $16 cocktails. It doesn't cover the top shelf liquor, but you can pay even more and get that if you want it, but yeah.
So thinking, say an average cocktail is $16, but for the sake of argument, well, let's say $15. So how many cocktails do you need to drink a day on your $100 package?
Well, it's about 6, I would say, gets you close.
Yeah, so
And you're hitting the break. That's cocktails, but I don't know how many people can drink 6 cocktails.
well I couldn't drink 6
I'd be
cocktails a
falling
day.
over.
I'd be falling over. And look, that does include coffees as well, but
And juices and soft drinks and
a lot of things. But let's just say I'm not going to get anywhere near that. What I do like is occasionally to order a bottle of wine over dinner, and not all the drinks packages
they
cover
give you
that.
a glass of wine, but not so it's a house wine. They don't give you necessarily a selection, but some do. It just depends.
Depends. But for most of them, they don't. And in my case, I get sulfur
Headaches,
migraines that are often, but not always, in the cheaper house wines. And I really need to know what it is I'm drinking and whether it's okay or not. I do have some drops I can use. But anyway, basically, I'm not a big drinker, but when I do drink, I need to know what I'm drinking. So we thought about it and we thought $2,000 is a lot for us to spend on alcohol.
Yeah, and it's typically $9-10 a beer, $9-10 a glass of wine, so they're quite expensive. And that's US dollars in Royal Caribbean.
Yeah.
Which is...
Mind the exchange rates.
Mind the exchange rate
catches
catches you
people out. P&O tends to be cheaper in Australia because it's in Australian dollars and it's sort of the same money but in different currency.
Yeah, which makes it a third cheaper.
Basically. So, might be, I think you said it was $9.50 for a...
$9.50 for a beer on here.
Except for happy hour on the first day that was $5 for a P&O.
Pacific Lager.
They have their own beer.
Brewed by Coopers. It's very nice.
But on alcohol, I would say that, you're on holidays, you do want to have fun. Unless, you really are very mindful about not drinking alcohol, and some people are for, various reasons, it's the place you are going to indulge. But also think, do you want to be totally and utterly blotto, especially if it's rough weather? And also if you've got children, do you want to spend your entire holiday being completely and utterly drunk, not able to get off the ship on port days, being totally sick all the time if the ship's rocking?
Some people have this, I've got to drink so much X amount. So
to get the value. Yeah.
They don't want to waste the value, they want to make their money out of it. So they go that far. But if you've gone ashore, you're not getting a drink. You've got limited times. Like if you're on a shore intensive tour, you don't necessarily want a drinks package because you won't be able to get your 15 in or whatever they recommend you get in.
I am yet to meet a person who's actually managed to make the drinks package work for them. I would actually suggest, maybe doing a shorter one and actually monitoring how much you drink and then working out whether it would actually, you would have got your money's worth.
Just put the money you'd put in drinks package onto your account. It's the same thing except you run out. But you may not run out. You may just save it.
Yeah, so yes. And so then the other thing is, the other thing to consider is soft drinks, because increasingly a lot of cruises are offering soft drinks packages. The current cruise we're on has a basic soft drinks package, and then they've got a refreshments package as well.
Yeah, so the soft drinks package is canned soft drink out. It's not even in the fridge. They just pour it over a lot of ice, so you get like a watered down soft drink, which is a bit strange. But the refreshment package is the next level up, where you get coffees and mocktails and all that added in. So I think it's about $18 for a soft drinks package per day Australian on this ship, and $25 for the refreshments. So it might be better to go to refreshments if you drink a lot of coffee and teas and fancy stuff.
They do have free coffee and tea on board, but it's mostly the instant variety. I think the restaurants, we felt it was probably like drip
filter, yeah.
But if you really, really want your good quality coffee, that might be a good way to go. Or just buy it as you use it. Like if you're only having one per day,
it's $5.
$5 versus $25. Well, that gives you another $20, in your day to use. So that's something to consider. And in the US, the Royal Caribbean, which has US kind of standards, you didn't like
they had
the soft drink from the machines.
I just got sick of soft drink. I had a package on the last Royal Caribbean, and I'd only drink 2 or 3 a day, and I was just over it.
Yeah.
Just too much sugar for me. I'm not allowed to have a lot of sugar.
Yeah, heart condition, not allowed to have a lot of sugar. But also, I don't want my children to have that much sugar. Like, they can have some, and they're on holidays, but not like constant access to sugar, because they'll just drink it all day.
So being frugal, we bring our own soft drinks on board.
We do, and so read carefully. Every cruise liner is different. They have different advice about what you can bring on board in terms of cans, bottles, or bottles of wine. So P&O, which we're currently on, I don't think we're allowed to bring alcohol, are we?
No alcohol, but we're allowed to bring anything non-alcoholic in cans, 12 cans per person, and you can top up in port.
So there you go. So we came in our baggage. We had, how many cans of ginger beer? Was it a dozen?
12, and then another 10 cans of that Prigolone water, whatever it's called.
Some fancy mineral water with a hint of lemon. And we're on holiday, so it's a bit of a treat, right? You could just have the water on board. And a lot of people don't like the water on board and insist on buying bottled water, but we find it's fine.
We just put it in the fridge.
Fill
it down, and it's just like tap water at home.
So we just bring a drink bottle with us for that. It's important you can't have water going through security, just like you can't for an airport. for security reasons. But, you know, you can, once you're on board, you can refill your drink bottle and that's fine. But because we're on holidays, we do take these things on board with us as a bit of a treat. And we often do take some snacks as well because, like, for instance, if we decided on some Pringles, if you go to the shop on board, it costs
$7 a can.
$7. Whereas if we take it with us, it's considerably less.
Half that price, yeah.
So
there is a tip with the fridges on these ships, because they're not normal compressor fridges, and they get a lot of heat build up in the cabinets. So we just leave the cabinet door open and the heat escapes and the fridge cools down better. Nice and icy cold.
Excellent. So I think those are the big things in terms of like the booking, the deciding on your room number, room type, and those things. But, you know, when you actually get on board, it's like being in a big resort. You know, it's all about having fun, but it's a company, so they're looking to upsell everything.
Photos, restaurants.
Anything you can think that they can possibly sell, they're going to sell to you.
They have a sale on every day for gold chains or watches or handbags or T-shirts and...
Yeah, art auctions, jewellery auctions, all sorts of stuff. So we have, you know, a few tips in terms of how to deal with that. And I guess the first thing is just to know that that's going to happen. You will generally spend more money on a cruise than you expect. You're relaxed, you're happy.
They expect you to spend what you've spent on your room again.
Almost. The statistics show it's almost about 2/3 of what you spent on your room you're going to spend on board. And so it's important that you're aware of that and you budget for that. And if you really don't want to do that, like, don't feel peer pressured into that. I think the first cruise, everyone was drinking wine at dinner and I felt a bit peer pressured to buy it, and there wasn't anything cheap on the menu. I think
the typical bottle of wine's like $40.
Yeah, 40 to 50.
And then it goes up from there.
Yeah. So just be aware of that. Although I don't know if you can do it on this cruise, but Royal Caribbean, you can keep the bottle of wine there, especially if you go back to the same restaurant. So the waiter will keep it for you, so you don't have to finish it.
Royal Caribbean allows you to take 2 bottles with you on board.
Yeah, so that's another trick too.
Yeah.
But one of the big things they'll try and upsell is specialty dining. So there are fantastic restaurants on board. There's usually a buffet type thing. Here on P&O, they've got what they call the pantry, which is a bit like a food court. So they've got like a Mexican, Indian, Italian, Chinese, fish and chips. And you can sort of order what you want and it's served a bit like if you went to food court. Or you could have sit-down meal, and that's an option too.
There's 3 restaurants.
But if you want to do something special, that's not just what's provided on board, there's options to pay extra and go to a specialty restaurant. For instance, Royal Caribbean has like a Jamie Oliver restaurant. It's got a Japan.
Izumi.
Yeah, Japanese restaurant.
Wonderland.
Which is all sort of innovative fusion things. So there is that option. And that is generally a lot cheaper than what you would pay on land. So it's sort of partially subsidised, but it is an additional cost. Now, the interesting thing from when we went on the Royal Caribbean a number of years ago and did a tour of the kitchen is it actually all comes out of the same kitchen. Or mostly it does. So that's just something to be aware of. And I think it's just decide early whether this is something you want to do, whether you plan to go out for pizzas or Italian as a family.
You might have a special occasion you want to celebrate or something. It is exceptional food. There's no complaints from me at any of these places.
Yeah, they are generally good value. They do the online dining really, really well. They've got great chefs, so it's good. And then the other thing to consider is excursions, because that's another area where cruise ships will really, really try and upsell. So we're currently on a cruise that doesn't have any shore visits, although they do try and sell you shows and other things. But our last one we did together, we went to the Pacific.
And it was called the Fiji Adventure. Yeah, so there was one day we did a tour. Oh, we did 2 tours. We did the Yellow Duck train around Yamu. Yeah, Tuk train around Yamu. That was good fun. But we had onboard credit because of cancellations from COVID, so that paid for that. But it was in the order of $100 each or something.
Yeah, so generally the excursions organised through the ship are a lot more expensive. And this is something that people need to think about, because if you do them through the ship, there are some key advantages.
Well, if you're on a tender port, you get priority disembarking, so you can get off and to their tours quicker. If you're not,
Sorry, some people probably don't know what tenders are.
that,
If you're not at a big sort of port with a big gangway, you probably need to go to land via these little boats,
yeah,
like
like the lifeboats.
the lifeboats, effectively. And if it's, a lot of people getting off, it can take a lot of
If
time.
you're on one of these ships with 5,000 odd people, it can take 4 or 5 hours to get those people off, and then
And you might miss your excursion. So
Yeah.
if you book through the ship, they'll give you priority. You'll get off first. You'll be part of the group and you'll be off. And also, too, you'll be back on. So if you're on a ship organised... If you're on a ship organised excursion and something happens, there's a massive traffic jam, there's a traffic accident, something happens, you are guaranteed pretty much to get back on that ship because you're with a group of people, you're with the cruise director or other staff from the ship. So you're going to get back on that ship.
But if you're delayed and can't get back before the ship leaves, you're screwed.
You've got to make your own way.
If you've done it yourself, yeah.
So that's it. The ship's not going to wait for you. The ship will be gone.
And you have to make your way either to the next port of call or just go home.
So, and that they are key considerations. You can't be late after those shore visits. And also, too, if a port of call is missed for any reason, there's no problem with getting your money back. And this is really important because there's no guarantee that you will stop at any port of call that is on your itinerary. There could be a cyclone. There could be biosecurity
There could
issues.
be wind stopping you getting the boats ashore, the tender boats. I've had that before.
Or they could just change their schedule for different reasons of things that... for
They
various
might have-
operational
they might have
reasons.
Biofoul on the whole, which stops them going into certain ports like New Zealand or...
So that's a key consideration. But on the flip side, it is a lot cheaper, like sometimes up to half price, and in fact, sometimes almost a third cheaper
Yeah,
to
a third the price,
organise your own onshore excursions. And also the local providers get a lot more money, like there's a lot of skimming from the operators. And so most of them are pretty good now, and they'll often be Facebook groups where you can connect and you can book things beforehand. And they will, if you've got to be really clear that if the ship doesn't show up, you're not paying for it.
Yeah, we did one in Fiji at Latuka like that.
It was great.
We paid when we got on the bus.
And they're port side. They do this all the time. They're locals.
There was no tendering, so it was pretty easy to get off in time. What it did do though, it was a smaller bus, so we could go to places that the bigger buses couldn't go to.
Yeah, it was great. So, and it was really lovely. It got to connect with some people in a different way than just being on the ship tour with the same people going to the same thing. But just be aware that there's pluses and minuses. I think if there's something you've always wanted to do, like, you need to go on a tour for a couple of hours from where you disembark, and it's really important for you to do, I would say definitely book through the ship. If it's like an optional, I would do it yourself. But don't be too adventurous with it if you're going to do it yourself.
Depends on your appetite for risk.
Depends, yeah. So it's all those things that you need to weigh up.
Okay, that's probably enough of that one.
Enough of that.
What's photographs?
Photographs.
Some people love them, some people hate them.
Well, we're frugal, so we're not really into taking photographs. But on your last cruise you did with a mate.
Yes, he's very extroverted. Loves a photo. He had over 200 taken, and he had to go through them and pick out 100 because he had a 100 package.
So there are packages, there's things you can buy beforehand, there's things that you can take on board. It is quite nice. We're here on a family cruise. There's 16 of us, so we're looking at getting a family photo tonight. Professional photographer can take one with a corny background.
Yeah, there's something superimposed, green screen stuff or whatever it is, a blind.
Whatever it is. And there's theme nights like Gatsby nights and white nights and things. And, it's nice if you're all dressed up.
And you get some good memories sometimes.
You do get some good memories. But just note that they are expensive and they will pull at your heartstrings, and you'll be boarding the ship and they'll want you to pose for photos, and they'll be walking around all the time wanting you to pose for photos, and then they'll be displayed out and you'll feel guilty to buy them. So just think about what's important for you beforehand. There's nothing wrong these days with a good digital phone that can take some great photos.
And sometimes just ask another passenger to take a photo for you.
Exactly. And my other key thing is beware the day spa. So we made the mistake on an early cruise. I hadn't actually been before. I was just curious. And,
They dragged you in, didn't they?
They dragged me in. And I was just curious. We had no intention of booking anything. And it took me 45 minutes before I could get out from the tour. And look, I'm sitting here with something in front of me now. And it's like spa special, the perfect day. Normally $330, now only $169. Now, there's nothing in there that I would actually really want, to be honest.
What does it say? A full body massage, energising eye treatment, Elmer's touch facial, foot and ankle massage, scalp massage, add hot stones or bamboo with your back massage for only $30.
This is actually a fairly good deal because usually they're around $200-300. Now, if I get one back in Australia, I can claim a bit of a rebate from my health insurance fund. Not much, but some. And crucially, I know that the practitioner is going to be good because it's with someone I've gone to before and I know that they're appropriate. And here I don't always know. So you get on a spa and it's really easy to go into the treat yourself mode. But really,
I deserve it. You
know, you only live once. I'm relaxing. But seriously, do it before you go or do it after you go because if you do it on the ship, it's not that fantastic.
We went to Tauranga, wasn't it?
Oh yes, when we were in New Zealand and we were somewhere where they had a hot spring and there was a practitioner, I went there who was local and she was brilliant. So if you're at a port visit where there is something a bit holistic, you know, that can be amazing too.
Because that was like half an hour and it was about 60 or 70 New Zealand dollars. And on board, it was up near $200 US.
Yeah, and she was great. She was fantastic. And she's, you know, trained and holistic and all the rest. So just it's best just not even, you know, just don't even go there. I mean, if it's a real priority, you know, do. But, you know, in general, it's going to cost you so much more than in Australia. And it might not even be that good. Maybe it is. I mean, I don't know. Look forward to hearing from people w'ho've enjoyed it.
But on... was it Mystery Island or no? It was another island. You had a massage with a lady and her kids running around. That wasn't as good.
It wasn't as good. It was on a Mystery Island, I think.
Trevuni, wasn't it?
Trevuni Island, so part of the Fiji archipelago. And really, look, it was it wasn't good.
There was no technique to it.
It was a lovely location, but look, it wasn't very good at all.
But then they only charge you $25 or something, didn't they?
So now the other thing to be careful about is the casino on board. Look, I have some friends who consider that it's an important part of their trip and, you know...
They play the pokies or something.
They play the pokies. We're here with a family member who's been doing quite well. Apparently he's been up. My lovely friend Trish, who's been a friend for many years, she loves a bit of flutter.
She won on the pokies coming back from Singapore once, didn't she? Paid for a whole cruise.
Well, actually... I'll come back to paying for a cruise, but what she does is she prepares a little kitty of her money that she's going to pay for the pokies or the casino.
Collects her $1 and $2 coins, does she?
Yeah, something like that. She's got a little kitty and then she plays it and it's done. But what a lot of the cruise ships do is you can earn points when you're playing at the casino.
You got to swipe your card on the poker machines and yeah.
Exactly, but you know, on your last cruise, didn't they basically win enough?
Yeah, they had enough points.
Friends, not Neil.
Yeah, that they've basically got another cruise each.
Yeah, so but definitely they use the casinos as a real draw card.
But they were on the high roller end.
They were on the high roller end. So we're not on that high roller end at this stage in our lives, and it sort of doesn't really fit with our values anyway. But just note, like if it is something, you know, you plan to do, just be careful to, you know, do that and do that appropriately. So... and so then the other things is, you know, you may get sick when you're on board. We hope you don't, but like you may happen. And
well, that leans into other stuff that you need, like sickness and then travel insurance to cover that sickness.
Yeah, so just think about that. Don't just assume that, look, you'll be right, it's all good. Now, we're just at the moment cruising up and down the coast, but it takes a long time for the whole ship to turn around and go back to Sydney. If you need to come off a ship...
Well, we had, with the last New Zealand cruise, they had 3 medical emergencies. And one of them, they were off Dunedin and they had to get the pilot boat out to take this person off because they couldn't chopper him off. I don't know what the injury was. You don't get that detail. You just get a Oscar call or something or whatever. No, that's man overboard. It was another call. Anyway, Delta.
But you can imagine if someone needs to be urgently medevaced and they, you know, need to be lifted off on a helicopter.
There's 50k or more gone.
Yeah. Exactly. So while there is medical care on board, like it's a really good idea to have medical insurance because, you'd hate to have to use it. But be prepared as well. I mean, while you can go and see the doctor, and actually I met someone once on a plane trip who had worked on a cruise ship, and he saw all sorts of things, but it's not cheap to go and see the doctor on board. So take basic things with you.
We always take headache tablets, gastro tablets,
Cold and flu,
tablets, just to get you through.
and travel sick things.
And a few little band-aids and things like that.
So take a few of those things with you. It could save you a fortune when you're on board.
But our travel insurance, some people hunt around. It's a big thing on all these forums about which is the best travel insurance, and that we've been using our credit card travel insurance because it covers us. It's through Allianz, which is underwritten by, and it's the same as the normal Allianz policy when you read through the PDS.
But the thing is, you do need to read through the product disclosure statement. Like in our case, you've got a pre-existing medical condition, so, you've got to decide whether, you've got to look at it carefully to see whether those sorts of things are covered. And, if necessary, you've contacted them before once, I think, actually.
Yeah, yeah, we won't go there.
We won't go there, but you can contact them, and there's a process if you need to disclose things. But do read it. Don't just assume that you are covered, and don't just assume that it's rubbish or junk, because it's not. They're usually exactly the same as commercially available ones. It's just credit card companies want you to pay for things like travel on your credit cards because they get that merchant fee from it. So
Yeah, so the rule we've got with ours is we have to spend $500 towards the fare.
So be aware of those sorts of things and work out whether with the merchant fees, whether paying that amount on the credit card is worth it, whether the frequent flyer points you may or may not get is worth it. Generally, we find it's worth paying at least a small amount, if not all of it, because it pays for the travel insurance and it's fine. But it really just depends. And then I guess I've got one final really big thing we wanted to talk about, which is something that people often get a bit worked up about on forums and don't talk about a lot.
The gratuities, is it?
Yeah, the gratuities. So
it's different depending where you sail from in the world.
So it's sort of culturally expected that you will give tips when you're on board. Now, traditionally, they weren't included in the fare, but they are now.
In Australia.
In Australia.
In Australia, it's law that there are no hidden charges. But in the US, you'll see a fare, then they'll whack the port fees on, the taxes on, and then when you get on board, they then charge daily gratuity fees. We have that all built in up front in Australia.
So many of the people who are working on board are, some are doing it because they want the experience of a lifetime, but most of them are doing it to support families back home. And it's interesting, actually, because I think traditionally it was a lot of Indonesians and Filipinos, and now it's really broad, actually.
There's more Indians and
There's a lot of people from the Pacific.
Indonesia, Fiji on this ship. There's been a few of them. Yeah.
Royal Caribbean, there was a lot of people from
The
West Indies and Jamaica and the Bahamas. It was really, really Caribbean. There's a lot of places in the world that they come to work on, and a lot of Chinese, actually,
yeah.
which was really interesting. So from all over the world, but they're here to work and to provide for their families. And often they will go above and beyond, particularly people such as your waiter, if you're in the same dining room every night, or your cabin steward. They'll make cute little towel decorations for you. They'll remember your name. They will, do extra and go above and beyond. And certainly, look, it's a nice gesture to give them some cash at the end of the cruise, that you don't have to do that.
No, because you've already paid your gratuities. It's just what you feel like. If you feel like you should give them something, and we do. We usually give $50 or something, but it's a bit different on a Royal Caribbean in the Caribbean itself, where you're paying an extra $25 a day.
Yeah. But I was really surprised, actually, because the one we did Christmas before last, and the sort of final day, we had our cash ready to give to the waiters, and, we're just talking to them, and they'd been really lovely. So we'd formed, a bit of a friendship, and, at the final day she was saying, "Oh, thank you, this really means a lot." It was, where was she from? Trinidad and Tobago, I think. Yeah. Lovely, lovely lady. And she's like, yeah, it's so hard because, she's a single mother and she's got adult kids and she's putting, I think, one of them through university. And it's really hard. And she spends a lot of time away from them and all of that guilt. And one of the ladies in our party just didn't realise this. And she's like, oh, I had no idea. Like, I just thought they were just there to,
Yeah, have fun, or I don't know. 6 months straight working 13, 14 hours a day. Yeah, it's great fun.
But well, fun for us, but not necessarily for others. But, everyone here has a story and they've got things that are happening. They might have young kids they're away from. There's all sorts of things. And so if you can afford it and if your budget stretches, do consider doing that because it does make a difference. In Australia, you don't have to. It's included. And some people say it's sort of not fair because it's only the ones who have contact with you get it, not the ones who are
so there is
in the background.
There is a fairness to collecting it in a pool and distributing it like they do. But if someone's gone extra above, a little bit extra doesn't hurt.
Yeah, so we love cruises, especially Neil. You've been on a lot more than me. We're always happy to talk about cruise questions and would love to hear from you about any tips that you have for good cruises, whether you like cruises, whether you hate cruises, whether it fits your values, whether it doesn't, whether it's something you aspire to or something not.
Yep.
Excellent. Well, until
next time.
Until next time, you can actually speak and I can't.
Toodaloo. How's that?
Looking forward to speaking to you soon. Thanks. Bye.